It's now my enormous privilege to welcome our guest speaker, Jeff Lucas. Jeff is in the middle of a Faith in the Fog tour. He's come hot foot, if today's weather allows anybody to be hot foot, from Stoke. And he goes next to Scunthorpe. Well, somebody has to. But for Friday and Saturday, we have him here, accompanied by his wife Kay. Jeff divides his time between Colorado, which is a mile high, and the UK. He spends a lot of time writing. He writes daily Bible readings, he writes monthly in magazines, he writes books, and I'm sure he'll be telling you about his new book. I don't know how the man sleeps. I write for a living as well, but I don't have anything like the output that Jeff has. Jeff is one of the leading Christian speakers of our day, and it's an enormous privilege for us to have him here in little old Whitley Bay, in the Playhouse. So please give a warm North Tyneside welcome to Jeff Lucas.
Thank you very much indeed, Graham, and thank you. Good evening, everybody. That was a reasonably good evening, but not great. So just give the person next to you a little slap, just a little slap. Really great to be with you, and a real privilege to be here. And I think we need to put our hands together immediately and thank this amazing team. As Graham was really kindly introducing me and sharing with you that I'm in the middle of this tour, I am actually speaking, teaching, preaching, whatever, 14 times this week, which is quite a bit. My wife Kay, who is at the front here, I preach so much, I said to her, darling, I have to speak so much, I actually get sick of the sound of my own voice. And she smiled knowingly and said, I understand completely how you feel. But it really is a great joy and delight to share with you this evening and have this opportunity to be with you. As Graham mentioned, I write. I spend quite a lot of my time writing. I was writing this morning, I'll be writing tonight and writing again tomorrow morning. I would never want to overstate the value of my books. How inappropriate and crass that would be. But it is the will of God that you purchase them, so just kidding, really, just kidding. Faith in the Fog is one of the latest too. I'm going to be speaking from the passage that this book is based on. It took me about 20 years to get around to writing this book. It's so honest, it scared me. It talks about disappointment and burnout and even seasons of depression. Faith in the Fog, believing in what you cannot see. There's a book back there, just came out a few weeks ago, called The Cactus Stabbers. What a completely weird title that is. I've travelled about 3 million miles in the last few years, and I've met quite a few fascinating and interesting people along the way. The Cactus Stabbers is make you laugh, make you cry, make you think, standalone chapters. And I should also mention, I think I can say this here, first time in Whitley Bay, but let me just settle right in and tell you that there's a book out there called There Are No Strong People. There Are No Strong People. It's about our weaknesses and strengths, and it's based on the story of Samson. Loved writing the book, but I do need to give a health warning, if I may, because there are no strong people. Because it's a Samson story, ladies and gentlemen, there's quite a lot of fairly blunt talk in there about sex, not snacks, sex. So if you're offended by that, please don't buy the book, because I don't need the email traffic, and that would help me out. Although I just look around the theatre and some of you don't seem offended, some indeed seem to be mildly excited about the possibility of buying the book. So those are out there, and there's a special deal going on as well, where you get one book free if you buy 3. I spend I've spent a bit of time in recent years travelling with the compassion we can do, but there actually is something that we can do. And I've watched the work of compassion changing children's lives. What does it cost? It costs £25 a month. There's a leaflet there in that programme. Really would love to ask you to consider, think about, pray about, but don't pray about it for too long. One of the challenges that we Christians can sometimes have is we think, well, I'll pray about it for the next 45 years, and then maybe eventually get around to it. A couple of young ladies came up to me. I was in Southport a few years ago, and they saw that film and they said, Jeff, we're both unemployed. They were 17 or 18 years of age. We're both unemployed. We don't have a lot of money, but we'd like to change the life of a child. Could we share a sponsorship together? Kind of really moved me and impacted me to see them doing that. So please think about that and come and see us if you'd like to hear more information about that. Now, you've been sitting down for a little while, and you're going to be sitting down for a little while more. So can I invite you just to stand with me for a moment, if you're able, please. You can stand if you're able. Have a little stretch if you like. Have a little stretch. I've got this new exercise video coming out soon. And I'll tell you what, why don't you take 30 to 45 seconds out of my speaking time and just turn around and say hello to those people you've been desperately trying to avoid. Just go ahead. Just go ahead and just turn around and say hello. Okay. It looks like this is verging on fun, and we really can't have that. So have a seat. That's great. How many of you just met someone really interesting, fascinating, good-looking, spiritual? Okay, a lovely Christian group. That's great. Excellent. By the way, come along tomorrow night if you can. I believe the music will be different tomorrow night. There'll be different selections shared. And I want to speak tomorrow night on healthy church. I want to talk about the importance of forgiveness. What do we do when everything goes wrong, when we're suffering, when life is filled with mystery? So I'd love to invite you to come along tomorrow night. If you've got a Bible, some of you have bought Bibles. How many Bibles have we got here in Whitley Bay in this theatre tonight? Raise your hand if you have a Bible. Some of you are holding up your iPhones and your iPads. Some of you are actually stealing Bibles from each other just so that you can hold them up. There's a man holding up a telephone directory at the back there, so I saw that. John 21, please, if you'd like to turn to that, if you have a Bible, and obviously if you don't, please don't worry. But John 21, and let me read these beautiful words from John's Gospel. Afterward, Jesus appeared again to his disciples by the Sea of Galilee. It happened this way. Simon Peter, Thomas, also known as Didymus, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 other disciples were together. I'm going out to fish, Simon Peter told them, and they said, we'll go with you. So they went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. He called out to them, friends, haven't you any fish? No, they answered. He said, throw your net on the right side of the boat and you will find some. When they did, they were unable to haul the net in because of the large number of fish. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, just pause right there. Who's the disciple that Jesus loved? John. Let's take a little vote. How many think John? John, yeah. Most likely John, okay. Who wrote this? Think about it. Give it to you. That's good. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, it is the Lord. As soon as Simon Peter heard him cry, it is the Lord, he wrapped his outer garment around him, for he had taken it off, and jumped into the water. The other disciples followed in the boat, towing the net full of fish, for they were not far from shore, about 100 yards. And when they landed, they saw a fire of burning coals there with fish on it and some bread. Jesus said to them, "Bring some of the fish you just caught." So Simon Peter climbed back into the boat and dragged the net ashore. It was full of large fish, 153, but even with so many, the net was not torn. Jesus said to them, "Come and have breakfast." None of the disciples dared ask him, "Who are you?" They knew it was the Lord. Jesus came, took the bread and gave it to them, and did the same with the fish. This was now the third time Jesus appeared to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. And when they finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these?" "Yes, Lord," he said, "you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my lambs." Again Jesus said, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" He answered, "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Jesus said, "Take care of my sheep." The third time he said to him, "Simon, son of John, do you love me?" Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, "Do you love me?" He said, "Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you." Jesus said, "Feed my sheep. Very truly I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you're old, you will stretch out your hands and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go." Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, "Follow me." Peter turned and saw that the disciple whom Jesus loved was following them. This was the one who had leaned back against Jesus at the supper and had said, "Lord, who is going to betray you?" When Peter saw him, he asked, "Lord, what about him?" Jesus answered, "If I want him to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You must follow me." One of the reasons I'm delighted to be here, ladies and gentlemen, is because, quite frankly, I'm delighted to be anywhere. I'm one of those sad men who gets lost everywhere he goes. I do have a GPS in my car that contains a devil woman that gives me instructions concerning where I should go, but my wife Kay and I, we are constantly lost, and married people here will understand my confession when I say that we occasionally experience navigational tension. Is that familiar to anybody? I get lost, ladies and gentlemen. But ladies, I hope you're impressed by this. I am one of those men who is willing to stop and ask for directions. That was a cheap shot, really, wasn't it? Some of you were nutting each other right there. I do stop and ask for directions, but the thing is, when I ask for the directions, I get really bored with listening. So the person saying turn left, second right, and I think, oh, be quiet, I'd rather be lost right now, this is money. I am lost so much, I'm famous for it in my family. We have two grandchildren, Stanley, aged 5, and Alex, aged 3. They're both away at medical school at the moment, preparing for the mission field. I'm kidding, some of you are getting really impressed with this. And when Stanley was born, the day before he was born, ladies and gentlemen, he turned breech. Gentlemen, that means he was facing in the wrong direction. And he had to be born safely by caesarean section. When he was finally born, my son-in-law Ben came to me. He said, "Jeff, I am really worried that your grandson has inherited your sense of direction." He said there was only one exit out and he managed to miss it. I think the child has a problem.